Hello Stephen, this is Jake from Autodesk, and this is just going to be a short video to describe the basic behavior of body visibility inside of Fusion 360. And hopefully this will help to clear up maybe some of the issues you were seeing, and help us determine if any of the behavior you were seeing was out of expectation, or if there's anything kind of counterintuitive in the current behavior that perhaps we could improve on in the future. So I'm first going to go over the expected behavior, and I think I'll touch on the workflows and the issues you saw. So I think not everything you're seeing is expected behavior. There's a few issues that will be fixed shortly, or things I've passed on to the product design team to take a look at. But I think most of what you described is the current designed behavior. So in the browser here, we've got this bodies folder. So this is kind of like the root bodies folder. So any bodies that are not assigned to individual components, by default they'll be placed into this bodies folder. So once you've created components, we build a new component, we can drag these out, and now the visibility of these bodies will be controlled by the visibility of the component. But any bodies that live inside that root bodies folder, they have their own visibility toggles, as I'm sure you're aware. But then this bodies folder has its own master toggle, and turning this off will override any settings for these individual bodies and make all of the bodies invisible. So I think the first issue you were seeing was the fact that when you created a new extrusion from the sketch, so try that now, we're getting this dialog here which is saying that the object you're creating is not visible. And this is because you're creating a new body, and by default that's going to jump into the bodies folder here. But because this master switch is turned off, that's overriding the visibility of the newly created geometry. So if I OK this command, as I mentioned, we're building the new geometry, but it's just invisible because of this master override switch. So I turn this back on. Okay, what should have happened there was that all of these bodies became visible because this is now on and all of their individual lights are on as well. But I think in the first reply I sent, I mentioned that there's an issue in the current build, and this is something that's going to be fixed in the next update, which should be with you very shortly. While this is off, if you mess around with the settings here, or you create any new geometry, sometimes when you flick it back on again, not all of the bodies that you would expect to be visible will become visible again. So a trick for this is, any bodies that are not visible that you expect to be, if you toggle them off and on again on their individual light bulb, that should restore the expected behavior, and now each of these light bulbs is controlling the visibility of those individual bodies as expected. So I think that's the first workflow you were seeing. So I guess there is the question of whether this behavior at the moment, which is when this is off and you build a new body, that body's invisible during the geometry creation. I guess there's some kind of, there's a subjective decision here about whether this is preferable to having the body visible while you create it, so having it visible now, and then you OK the command, and then it becomes invisible. So that's an alternative way that could work. And I think there's pros and cons either way. If you feel like that second workflow would be more intuitive, would make more sense, let me know, and I can pass that feedback back to the product design team, because they're the guys who had to make that decision. And I guess if people are finding it confusing, they'll want to have that feedback and think about, are we following the best path here, or do we need to change any of the behavior here? So that's the first issue you reported. Now I think the second issue was related to, once you deleted these bodies, you were seeing the same problem. You extruded this and you got that warning saying it was invisible. Oops. So I believe it was because if this is toggled off and then you delete these bodies, once this folder has no contents, once there's no bodies living inside here, so I'll delete this. So now the bodies folder has disappeared. So that bodies folder only exists while there's bodies in the part. So if I create an extrude now, by default this is going to jump into that bodies folder. But because that bodies folder was invisible when it was removed, when it kind of got deleted from the browser, now it's kind of remembering that. So we're in the same situation as we were before, which is in the background we're putting this new geometry into the bodies folder, but that bodies folder master switch is set to invisible. So if we go OK, you can see the bodies folder appears, but its switch is set to invisible, and that's overriding the visibility of the new body, which does exist. You can see the skeleton there. I think you mentioned this. So bodies that are invisible, you can hover over their node in the browser to see where they are in space. You can see like a skeleton of the body. So if I turn this back on, I would expect to see the body come up again, but as I mentioned, there's that issue that we're going to fix in the next update, which means that you need to toggle that off and on again to restore the expected visibility of that body. So I think that's just related to the fact that this was off when you deleted those bodies. So let's go back and try it the other way. So if we have this on, and I'll restore those. So if I delete this now while the visibility is turned, oh sorry, I need to delete the individual bodies. So I delete these and that master switch is on. Now when I go to create the extrude, we should be able to see the geometry. Yeah. So now in the background it's putting it into that bodies folder, but that bodies folder is visible now. So the newly created geometry is also visible. So that's everything. I think that's I think that covers all of the issues that we spoke about. If there's anything you saw here that's maybe kind of against your expectations or you find counterintuitive, then do let me know, and I can pass your feedback on to the product design team. They're very interested to know how customers are finding the behavior. If we get feedback on a particular issue, then they'll review it and they'll think about what's the best behavior here and how maybe can we improve this for the future. So if you do have any feedback about this behavior, that's really helpful. And if you have any more questions, then just get in touch. So thanks very much for all your efforts on the beta testing. It's very much appreciated, and I'll probably speak to you on the forum soon. Thank you.